I have the keys to a 2016 Porsche Cayenne Diesel, and I have a mile to drive it and give you my impressions. But before I get behind the wheel, here's a little bit about the Cayenne Diesel. So this is a 2016 model. Porsche no longer makes a Cayenne Diesel. As we all know, the Volkswagen Group, including Porsche, got caught up in an emissions cheating scandal, which doesn't affect how awesome these cars are. It just means that Porsche will no longer sell you one. But I can say from experience that diesels are great cars for daily driving. And the owner of this tells me that it's the second best car he's ever owned. The diesel came with a 3-liter turbocharged V6, and it made only about 240 horsepower, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it made 406 pound-feet of torque. And that torque starts at 1,750 RPM and lasts, I believe, to about 2,500. So when you're just driving around town, you need to get on the throttle, pass a car real quick. You don't necessarily need a downshift. You have all that torque ready to allow you to do that. My guess is that this Cayenne will not have the top end that, let's say, a Cayenne S with a gasoline engine might have, but it more than makes up for it with torque. It's a 4 or 5-seater if you sit somebody in the center seat in the back. It has a nice large hatchback, and it is the biggest vehicle that Porsche offered at the time, and the Cayenne still is the top of the model range when it comes to vehicle size. It has an automatic transmission. This is not PDK. There's no dual clutch for the Cayenne. From what I've found over the years is that the automatic transmission fits the Cayenne very well. In some ways, I prefer it for a car like this. On the inside, you have a steering wheel that's very sporty for an SUV, and you get all of the same side bolstering and sportiness that you can feel whenever you step inside any Porsche. So it might not be the quickest Cayenne, but it has a ton of torque and it gets great fuel economy. I believe well over, or a bit over 30 miles per gallon, which for a car that's about 5,000 pounds is very impressive. And with that, I'm gonna give it a drive for a mile and give you my impressions.
Be sure to log into your YouTube account, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video. Best of all, it's free to do so.
All right, Cayenne Diesel. I drive a 2015 Golf Diesel. I love it, so I'm excited to drive a Cayenne Diesel for the first time. So in talking to the owner, between the intro and now getting into the car to drive it, I said that this Cayenne Diesel was his second favorite vehicle that he's owned. The first favorite was actually a Cayenne Diesel with the air suspension. So going from that SUV to this one, which does not have the air suspension, that's one option that the owner wishes he had on it. But it just goes to show how useful and utilitarian these cars are, is that you can get in them, drive them, get great gas mileage, and use them for whatever is needed for work or just hauling things around. I do know that this car won't be quite as sporty as a Cayenne S of the same era, and that is due to the diesel engine. They just do not like to be wound out, and they actually redline, I believe, at 5,300 RPM, though all the power comes in between 4 and 5, or probably starts to drop off right around there, and the torque comes in much earlier. So here we go. Yep, so definitely feels and sounds like a diesel compared to starting up a V8 gasoline-powered Cayenne S. Put it into drive. We do have manual here if we want to use that, with some paddles here. And I'll just make sure that the parking brake is off. And there's the parking brake. It's on. And you pull it there to turn it off. So, and with that, I'm going to close this window and I'll be on our way. So I've driven Cayennes, this generation of Cayenne before, and I do know they're great SUVs. If you want a luxury SUV, it's hard to go wrong with a Cayenne. One of the first things I noticed about this car is its steering wheel. It's nice leather, and it has that excellent feeling that worn leather has. So they don't come quite from the factory like this, but it's definitely got a nice feeling to it now that we're 60-something thousand miles away from when this car was new. The steering is very nice. and easy, just like an SUV should have. You can tell that the engine is not a V8, but you can tell it's not a 4-cylinder. Definitely has that V6 sort of growl. And overall right now, it feels very refined. You know, you might get a little bit of a feeling, a diesel feeling through the throttle pedal at these low revs right now, but it's not much, and if you didn't know you were driving a diesel, you might not actually make that guess. Left in automatic mode, it's a very predictable transmission. I've always loved the automatics in the Porsche Cayenne, so I'm gonna give it the gas here. Yeah, that was about 3,800 RPM. There's torque. It's not fast. Just as I suspected, this Cayenne Diesel is not a quick car, but it has the torque to haul basically whatever you need, and you can feel that. And it doesn't sound all that bad either. You know, diesels get a bad rap for not sounding great. You might not know you're in a diesel unless somebody told you. So here I go. Have it in manual mode. Yeah, this is no PDK, nor is it the ZF8 speed. So not my favorite automatic transmission. It's something I would probably leave in automatic mode most of the time if I were driving this car. Yeah, it's like a half a second between hitting the shift paddles. And it won't rev match the throttle blip for you. So just like any other automatic transmission, when I hit the downshift, it will feel like it's dragging a clutch until it gets to the RPM needed for the lower gear. But that's not what these cars are about, so I'm going to put it back into automatic mode. Yep, there's that torque. It starts at 1750 RPM. You can definitely feel it. The car won't shift down all that much because it doesn't need that horsepower, because it doesn't have a lot. It has a lot of torque. So this Cayenne Diesel shift programming will keep you at the lower revs to take advantage of that torque, which is not the most sporty thing, you know, very un-Porsche-like in a lot of ways, but for the type of car it is, it fits. Infotainment screen, lots of buttons in the traditional Porsche manner. You can definitely tell this is a generation or two behind the current setup. It doesn't have the neat sloping touchpad that some of the new cars have, but in some ways I do still prefer having these buttons. It might be a lot of buttons, but they do the job and you don't have to second guess yourself. So, interior quality in the car feels very nice, Porsche-like. Again, it's a little bit maybe a step behind what the brand new Cayennes have, but that's sort of to be expected in a slightly older car. You know, the name of the game is constant improvement, but still a very high quality interior. It's worn very well, you know, for a 62,000 mile vehicle that's seen some very hard use. Everything seems to be holding up very well. I'm going to put it into manual mode once more. And this chute will take us out of this little park area. Shift in a second. That was a pretty quick shift. No throttle blip. No throttle blip, as I have said. That's not what this car will do for you. Here we are at about 3,000 RPM going downhill. And you can tell this is probably a diesel if you know what you're looking for. It's a little bit less refined than the gasoline, you know, V8 Cayenne S or V6 counterparts. And I'll try that. I'm going to try a little full throttle in second gear here, just from about 1,700 RPM to see what it feels like. Yep. And there's that torque, for sure. Back in the automatic mode. Yeah, this is the kind of car you can do a lot of your errands in and get great gas mileage. Maybe even tow your race car or show car, whatever you might have. But don't expect it to be a great drive on a back road. You're not going to want to wind this engine out hard like you might in some other Porsches. Yep, and that was up to the 5,300 RPM red line just about. It's one of the most refined diesel engines I've ever experienced. Doesn't really have that clatter or sound like what you might associate with this kind of engine, especially on older cars, you know, from the mid-2000s or earlier. You know, this isn't Mercedes diesel sedan that's running on biofuel or old French fry grease. But yeah, my guess is that around town you wouldn't notice the lack of a top end here. You would just appreciate all the torque you get from low down. You know, no shifting gears to pass people. You know, leave it in automatic. It'll probably keep you in the torque band at low revs, and you can just zoom straight past. So, we of course have a rating system with our 1 mile reviews. And so we start with car show. And let's be honest, this is a Cayenne Diesel. There might be some people who appreciate the fact that this is a diesel Cayenne, but I don't think most people are going to care. You know, it would be a geek like myself that appreciates that. It's in a gray color. The interior is black. This is not going to stand out really at a car show. It doesn't even really strike me as the kind of vehicle that you would take to a car show. So, you know, this is going to get a low score for that. It's going to be a 3. However, it's going to make up for that on daily driving and road tripping. So the daily driving score, you're going to get over 30 miles per gallon. There's not a lot of SUVs in this class where you can say that will happen. It's really comfortable. I'm sure that air springs or the air suspension would be a little bit nicer. This doesn't have that, so perhaps I take off maybe a half a point for daily driving because it doesn't have the air suspension. But overall, a very comfortable car to drive with an intuitive infotainment system with buttons, a nice steering wheel, a good transmission. I'm going to give this a 9.25 for daily driving because you're not going to find a much better Porsche for daily driving. If you're just on a road trip to go from point A to point B and experience your destination, and it's not something like Porsche Parade, and maybe it's not your only car that you're taking to Porsche Parade. If this is just a road trip car from point A to point B, you really can't beat it. For something like Porsche Parade, man, I might actually consider towing my Porsche with this so that I can have a more fun car to experience at my destination. But all in all, for road tripping, whether you're towing a vehicle or just have your significant other or a best friend and a couple other friends or kids and a dog, the Cayenne Diesel can do everything, and you won't be spending a lot of time filling up because the gas mileage is just great for this class of vehicle. So I'm going to also give this a 9.25 for road trip. Now, fun factor, it's going to suffer a little bit. It doesn't have the top end that most Porsche engines have that are gasoline, but it does have the torque. But torque doesn't always equal fun. On a back road, it's nice to rev an engine out and for that to be rewarding, and that's just not the case here. Better than most diesels I've driven, but not at that normal Porsche level. It handles great. I'm sure I didn't really push this car all that much on this drive. So I'm going to give this a 5 for fun factor because this is a workhorse. This is a utilitarian vehicle. It's not going to be the car or the vehicle that you grab the keys for when you're going to try and enjoy that Sunday drive. And that's my 1 mile review. If you like this video, please smash the like button. If you like content like this, please subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. We'd love for you to help us achieve that. And you won't ever miss an upload if you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and until next time.